Since my last review on what I consider to be the best air mouse at the time, they've just gotten much better. This is the now upgraded best air mouse ever. So the old model was good, was really good, but it wasn't great. After using it for quite an extensive amount of time, there were a few things that I felt were missing from it. However, they've all been added to this model, and that's why it's worth the upgrade. But first things first, before I get into this review, let me just address some of the comments I've had on my previous video. One of the biggest issue, or the most commented thing on that video, was about the audio not working on that remote. So, like I said on the review itself, there was a voice assistant button on the remote itself, or there was a voice assistant option. Now, there is a microphone on that remote that I have particularly, but there's a lot of clones and there's a lot of variants of that remote, so yours might not have it. On the one that I have, there was no button for it because there was no need for one. There was a microphone embedded into the remote itself, so when you say the words, "Hey Siri" or "Okay Google," whatever it was connected to at the time, it did work and pop up sometimes. Other times it wouldn't do because that microphone quality just wasn't very good. And that's why I feel some of you were experiencing issues. Now with this one, that's a whole different story, and it's one of the things that's definitely got upgraded. Not only this one has a microphone button, it also has improved quality for it, so it shouldn't miss as much. That's the biggest thing I want to address on this video for the other one. Now for the unboxing itself. So, once we crack open the box, it's very simple. There's a plastic sleeve inside with the remote itself and a charging cable. And yes, there is a charging cable. Another thing that's been upgraded on this is that it no longer needs AA batteries. It now has a single rechargeable battery on the inside, which is awesome. Other than that, we have the instruction manuals, the remote itself, and of course, the 5.4 GHz dongle that needs to be connected. Unfortunately, this is not a Bluetooth model. You do need to connect that up. So if you're going to connect that to any device like a phone or an Apple device, you do need a dongle for it. Now, these instructions, if you don't want to pause and read the video or read the instructions yourself, just keep watching because I will explain everything. However, these are definitely worth the read because they explain what every button does and what the remote itself does as well, and it shows those features quite well. I have a read through, and this is the remote itself. As you can see straight up, it looks a lot cleaner and slicker than the old model before. It does retain all the functions of the old model. As you can see, we now have a big microphone button that I've mentioned before, that when you press that, it will activate Google or Assistant or Siri, depending on the device you have it connected to. But you can just tap that once or twice and it will definitely work. That's the microphone port up there itself. Every time you press a key, that green LED light at the top does turn on. And just like the old model, it has a full QWERTY keyboard that will not be used unless you flip the device over. So obviously it's got gyroscopic motion on it. All these buttons feel really good. They are clicky and they're all rubberized. So it feels better than your traditional remote. And it also looks like it can last a lot longer. Now the reason why that's important here is because you're going to type on this keyboard. So that you need to have that sensitivity on it, and you're going to use this keyboard a lot more than you use your traditional remote, most likely. And yes, you just saw that. It has full background light. So all the keys light up, and you can see that in the dark, which is awesome. Now, this is a big upgrade to the old one, which did not have that feature. And when you're watching a movie at night and you want to, change it or it's over, whatever, it was really hard to see the keys. I had to turn on the light for it. Now, as you can see, the keys on the back only light up, or on the front even, once you have them up, and they'll go off if you're not using them. So they're only on when they're needed thus obviously saving your battery. Something that's also here still is those 4 buttons at the top. As you can see, they have no names for them, but they are your programmable buttons. So if you press the IR button and then tap one of those, it will basically learn anything that your old remote has, meaning that you have 4 buttons on this remote that can do anything else. If you need to turn on your TV, you don't need to reach for an old remote. You can just use this one for pretty much everything. Now let me show you these background lights more in a dark room so you can see how well they're lit up at night and how well you can see this and use them. Moving up next, of course, I have to show you the actual Air Mouse in action. This is connected to my laptop right now just for demo purposes, but as you can see, the tracking is great. It's a lot better than the old one, even though the old one I had 0 issues with, like, ever. I was incredibly impressed. Now, of course, in this Mac in particular, the OK button acts as the left click button, and everything else pretty much works as you'd expect. I don't have Siri Assistant enabled on my Mac, so that's not going to work. However, it did detect it as a microphone, so you can have that to use. Everything else, again, works just as you would expect. Certain keys don't work on my Mac, but they will be compatible in your device depending on what you're using. This is just a simple test on the keyboard, and you can definitely type this up really easily. Now, I wouldn't have this on as my main keyboard, of course, but if you just quickly want to connect to a computer that's being like used as a display board, or if you just want to type this up on your Netflix to search for something, it definitely beats the having to scroll down for each key, for each letter individually on the screen. It's so much faster and so much simpler, and that's one of the main reasons why I fell in love with these Air Mouse remotes, because they are just really good at what they do, which is that. And as you can see, you got some presets in there, like the www.com and a few other keys, just to make it easier for you. And as you can see, if you shake it quick, it does make it bigger, so it does 100% work. And again, just like the old one, if it ever gets offset, you can just turn off the Air Mouse function and then turn it back on, and it will be just fine. Considering it doesn't have an IR tracking and it's just simply with the gyroscopic sensor inside the remote, the tracking is absolutely insane. So although it doesn't feel as good as a Wii motion controller, this actually does act and feel really good. So overall, I do highly recommend this upgrade. It is a lot cheaper than the old one was, so they've come down in prices, they've added a lot of new features. If you want one, there's a link in the description where you can get it. I highly recommend it. It is the best remote control ever, and it's just been upgraded. So thank you guys for watching, and do please consider subscribing.